Hey guys, tonight we journey across the stars to a civilization known not by their grand cities, but by their distinctive armor, warrior code, and the legends they left scattered among the stars. Behind every beskar helmet and signet lies a story of honor, conflict, and survival spanning millennia. Today, we explore the complete Mandalorian timeline, from their ancient beginnings to their diaspora across the galaxy. But before we get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy these sleep journeys. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see our community gathering from across different star systems of our own world. Now, dim your lights. Find that perfect position beneath your covers. Maybe turn on a fan for that gentle background hum, the kind that mimics the sound of a starship at rest. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Welcome to the world of the Mandalorian, where ancient traditions meet galactic conflict, and where honor is forged in the fires of countless battles. Before our journey truly begins, picture yourself walking across the quiet plains of Mandalore. The air still carries echoes of battles fought centuries ago. The sand beneath your feet glitters with fragments of beskar, the legendary Mandalorian iron dot. As you crest a small hill, you spot something partially buried in the crimson soil, a Mandalorian helmet, weathered by time, yet still unmistakable with its T-shaped visor. You kneel beside it, noticing strange markings etched into its surface, and as your fingers trace the ancient symbols, a vision flashes before your eyes. Warriors in matching armor, fighting not against each other, but side by side, wielding glowing swords of light against a darkness threatening to consume the galaxy. The vision fades as quickly as it appeared, leaving you with one burning question. What catastrophic events scattered these legendary warriors across the stars? And why does their very mention still cause trembling throughout the galaxy? The twin suns of the Mandalorian homeworld cast long shadows across the ancient ruins of Sundari, once the proud capital of a civilization that struck fear and admiration into the hearts of countless species across the galaxy. A solitary figure stands at the entrance to what scholars believe was the Great Hall of Mandalore, its distinctive geometric architecture still visible despite centuries of neglect and warfare. The air carries the scent of iron and desert sage, a strangely comforting combination that seems to welcome visitors to this forgotten place. The historian's boots crunch softly on the mixture of sand and small fragments of beskar that litter the ground like fallen stars. This legendary iron, once forged into the finest armor the galaxy has ever known, now returns slowly to the soil from which it was mined. Kes Drassi had traveled across dozens of systems to reach this place, driven by a scholar's curiosity and a strange connection to the warriors who once called these ruins home. The histories of the Mandalorians are fragmented, scattered across the galaxy, just like their people. Some tales speak of honorable warriors, others of ruthless conquerors. Kes seeks the truth that lies somewhere between those extremes. As the historian steps through the massive archway into what remains of the Great Hall, her eyes adjust to the dimmer light. Sunbeams pierce through holes in the ceiling, illuminating dust particles that dance like tiny stars in the still air. The walls are adorned with faded murals depicting warriors in distinctive armor, locked in eternal battle with robed figures wielding weapons of light. A voice breaks the reverent silence, startling the historian from her observations. Few outsiders make the journey to these ruins nowadays. Fewer still can read the old markings. Kes turns to face the speaker and finds a weathered Mandalorian in full armor. Unlike the pristine examples seen in museums and historical records, this armor bears the marks of true combat. Scratches and dents tell stories of battles survived, each imperfection a badge of honor rather than a flaw. "I am ruder," the Mandalorian says, removing his helmet to reveal a face lined with age and experience. His white hair is cropped short, and a scar runs from his left temple to his jaw. Last custodian of the archives of Mandalore, he gestures toward a doorway partially hidden behind fallen debris. "You seek knowledge of my people. Why?" Kes explains her mission: to document the complete Mandalorian timeline, to preserve their history for future generations. Drew listens in silence, his expression unreadable. "History," he finally says, "is written by survivors, and we are nothing if not survivors." He turns and walks toward the hidden doorway, clearly expecting the historian to follow. "Come, if you wish to learn of Mandalore, you must begin at the beginning." The passage leads deep beneath the ruins, the temperature dropping noticeably with each step downward. The walls here are different, made of solid stone, rather than the composite materials used in the structures above. These foundations are ancient, perhaps dating back to the earliest days of Mandalorian civilization. The tunnel opens suddenly into a vast chamber. Kes's breath catches in wonder, illuminated by soft blue light from unknown sources. The room contains hundreds of armor stands, each bearing a complete set of Mandalorian armor from different eras. Some are primitive, barely recognizable as the iconic design known throughout the galaxy. Others are sophisticated, integrated with technology far beyond what's expected for their time. Between the armor stands are display cases containing weapons ranging from ancient blades to experimental blasters never put into mass production. The walls are covered in clan banners, most faded to the point where their symbols are barely visible. "This is the Chamber of Remembrance," Rue explains, his voice softening with reverence. Each set of armor belonged to a warrior of significance. Together, they tell the story of our people. He approaches a particularly ancient set of armor, its metal more crude compared to later examples. "This belonged to the first man, sole ruler our people recognized before we became the warriors known throughout the galaxy." As Rue speaks, Kes notices something unusual about the chamber. Despite the hundreds of armor sets on display, there are dozens of empty stands. Their absence is conspicuous among the otherwise complete collection. "The missing armor," Rue says, noting her observation, "belongs to warriors whose stories are not yet complete, or whose legacy was lost during the Great Purge." A shadow passes over his face as he mentions this event. Some pieces were destroyed, others are scattered across the galaxy, worn by descendants, or claimed by collectors who do not understand their significance. He moves to a central display where a single helmet rests on a pedestal of dark stone. Unlike the others, this helmet bears no clan markings or personal touches. Its surface is pure, unadorned beskar, reflecting the blue light with an almost liquid quality. "This," Rue says quietly, "is why you are here, though you did not know it. This helmet belonged to the chronicler, who witnessed the greatest triumphs and darkest hours of Mandalorian history. Through his eyes, you will see the truth of our past." He carefully lifts the helmet and holds it out to Kes. The chronicler's memories are stored within, recorded through technology lost to time. If you truly wish to know the Mandalorian people, this is where your journey begins. As the historian's hands close around the ancient helmet, A subtle vibration passes through her fingers, and for just a moment, there comes the sound of distant voices speaking in a language unknown to modern scholars. The true history of the Mandalorians awaits within this relic, ready to reveal centuries of battle, betrayal, and victory. The helmet rests heavier in Kess's hands than its size would suggest. Perhaps it's the weight of history it contains, rather than the beskar from which it was forged. Ru Ordo watches with patient eyes, waiting for a decision, though he seems to already know what it will be. To access the memories, he explains, "You need only place the helmet upon your head. The chronicler's technology will do the rest. But be warned, historian, what you seek is not merely information. These are not dry historical accounts. You will experience our history, as though you lived it yourself." A flutter of apprehension passes through Kes, but her resolve remains firm. The journey across the stars had been too long to turn back now. With a deep breath, the scholar raises the ancient helmet and slowly lowers it over her head. Darkness envelops her for a moment, followed by a strange tingling sensation that begins at the base of her skull and spreads throughout her body. The air inside the helmet carries the scent of metal and ozone with a faint humming that seems to resonate with bone and sinew alike. Then, without warning, the darkness explodes into light and sound. Kes stands on a wind-swept plain beneath an alien sky. 3 moons hang overhead, casting multiple shadows that dance across the landscape. Before her, thousands of warriors in primitive armor kneel before a single figure standing atop a natural stone dais. This lone warrior holds aloft a weapon unlike any seen before, its blade seemingly forged from darkness itself, edged with light that cuts through the night like a star gone nova. Tari Vizsla, Ru's voice speaks directly into her mind. The first Mandalorian accepted into the Jedi Order and creator of the Darksaber. What you witness now took place over 1,000 years ago when he returned to claim leadership of our people. These cannot be accurate, she says, pointing to the images. Everything we know about Mandalorian history suggests they were eternal enemies of the Jedi. Yet these images suggest alliance. History, Ru replies, is rarely as simple as enemies and allies. He reaches for an ornate box tucked away on a high shelf, one Kes had not examined yet. From it, he withdraws a small, damaged holographic projector. This record survived the bombing of Caleb during the Civil War, he explains. It has never been shown to an outsider. The projector flickers to life, its image distorted and fragmented. A Mandalorian warrior, in armor of unusual design, stands beside a Jedi, both facing some unseen threat. The recording has no audio, but their body language suggests not merely alliance, but friendship. "Impossible," Kes whispers. "This warrior was all an Ordamai ancestor," Ru explains. The Jedi was called Revan. Their story is one of many that have been deliberately obscured in our history. The hologram shifts, showing more scenes of cooperation between Mandalorian and Jedi. Then, suddenly, conflict erupts between them, though it appears internal rather than the traditional warfare depicted in most historical accounts. As the hologram fades, Kes sits back, her mind racing to incorporate this new information. "The Great Purge," she says suddenly. "All these contradictions, the missing armor in your collection, the gaps in the chronicler's records, they all point to some cataclysmic event that scattered the Mandalorians." Ro's face becomes a mask, revealing nothing. "What do you know of the Great Purge, historian?" "It is mentioned in no public record," Kes admits. "Only fragments. References in your archives. whispers in the chronicler's memories. But whatever it was, it seems to be the pivot point around which modern Mandalorian history turns. Rue rises and moves to a sealed door at the far end of the archive. There is one more record you should see before we continue. He places his hand against a scanner hidden within the door's ornate frame. Ancient mechanics were to life, and the door slides open, revealing a small chamber beyond. Inside stands a single display case. Within it rests not armor or weapons, but a simple data crystal of archaic design. This contains the last transmission from Mandalore before Imperial forces enacted the Great Purge. It was recovered at great cost by members of my clan. He carefully removes the crystal and inserts it into a reader. A damaged hologram appears showing a Mandalorian commander. Her armor is scorched and broken in places. Behind her, the sounds of battle can be heard. This is Commander Saxon, the figure says, her voice distorted by damage to the recording. The Empire has betrayed us. They came not as allies, but as exterminators. They have weapons that target our beskar specifically. They want our planet and our resources, not our allegiance. Explosions rock the scene, and the commander looks over her shoulder before continuing, urgently. If anyone receives this, spread the word. Mandalore has fallen. Scatter to the hidden strongholds. Preserve our ways until the time of gathering comes again. This is the way. The transmission ends abruptly, leaving the chamber in silence. Kes stares at the empty space where the hologram had been, pieces falling into place in her mind. The Empire betrayed them, she whispers. They allied with the Empire and were betrayed. A simplification, Rur says, but essentially correct. Some clans aligned with the Empire, others opposed it. In the end, it mattered little. The Empire wanted Mandalore's resources and saw our warrior culture as a threat to be eliminated. Kes turns to her notes, seeing them in a new light. This explains so much. The contradictory accounts, the scattered clans, the different interpretations of what it means to be Mandalorian. As she speaks, the ground suddenly trembles beneath them. Dust falls from the ancient ceiling as a distant explosion echoes. Through the ruins, Ro moves with surprising speed for his age, rushing to a monitoring station hidden within a wall panel. "We have company," he growls, pulling his helmet from his belt. "It seems your research has attracted unwelcome attention." The echoes of distant blaster fire penetrate even the thick walls of the underground archives. Ro moves with practiced efficiency, securing vital records and activating ancient defense systems that have lain dormant for generations. Who would attack an archaeological site? Kes asks, helping to gather the most fragile documents. Those who fear the truth, Ru replies grimly, or those who wish to control it. He accesses a security monitor, displaying grainy images of the surface. Armored figures move methodically through the ruins, their designs a mockery of traditional Mandalorian armor. False Mandalorians. Rur spits the words like venom. Mercenaries who claim our heritage without honoring our codes. Kes recognizes the insignia on their shoulders. Deathwatch remnants. I thought they were disbanded decades ago. Deathwatch never truly dies, Ru responds, checking his blaster. It merely hibernates, awakening whenever our people face crisis. They believe themselves the true guardians of Mandalorian tradition, yet they corrupt everything they touch. He leads Kes through a hidden passage, moving deeper into the complex rather than toward the surface. They must have been monitoring communications to this sector. Your arrival drew their interest. And now, my transmission to the covert. has revealed our location, transmission. What covert? Kes asks, struggling to keep pace. I have been reporting your discoveries to the remnants of my clan, Rue explains. There are more of us than you know, historian, scattered but not broken. They emerge into a small hangar where an ancient but well-maintained Mandalorian vessel awaits. Its design is distinctive, clearly built for both atmospheric flight and space combat, with weapon systems that look far more advanced than its apparent age would suggest. The records must be preserved, Rue says, activating the ship's systems. Help me load the essential archives. Together, they transfer the most critical historical documents, the chronicler's helmet and the holographic records, into the ship's cargo hold as they work. The sounds of combat grow closer. They are penetrating the outer defenses faster than I anticipated, Rue mutters. We must accelerate our timeline. Once the precious cargo is secured, Rue turns to Kes with unexpected formality. I must ask something of great importance. The knowledge you have begun to assemble must reach those who can use it to reunite our people. There is a Mandalorian covert in the Selenian system. The coordinates are programmed into this ship. Will you take this burden? Before Kes can respond, the facility rocks with a much closer explosion. Alarms blare as sections of the ancient structure begin to collapse. There is no time. Rue continues. I will hold them here. The self-destruct systems will ensure they find nothing of value if they overcome me. I can't just leave you, Kes protests, and I still don't understand why these records are worth dying for. Rue places a hand on her shoulder. You believe the Great Purge was simply imperial betrayal and genocide. This is the false conclusion many have reached even among our own people. The truth is far more complex and far more dangerous. He moves to a small safe embedded in the ship's bulkhead and retrieves an ancient Mandalorian pendant. This will identify you to the covert as acting with my authority. Find Sabine Wren. She holds the other half of this mystery. The facility shudders again as another explosion rocks the foundations. Sections of ceiling begin to collapse around them. Go. Now, Rue commands, donning his helmet. This is the way. With reluctance, Kes boards the ship. As the hangar doors begin to open, she catches a final glimpse of Rue Ordo standing tall, blaster in hand, facing the passage through which their pursuers will soon arrive. The Mandalore vessel rises smoothly, despite its age, slipping through the narrow hangar doors and accelerating into the atmosphere. Through the viewport, Kes watches as sections of the ancient ruins collapse inward, dust and debris rising in great clouds above the site that had stood for millennia. As the ship breaks atmosphere, the sensors detect pursuit craft launching from a larger vessel in orbit. The autopilot engages evasive maneuvers while calculating the jump to hyperspace, alone in the unfamiliar craft. Surrounded by fragments of a history she only partly understands, Kes reviews what she has learned. The Imperial betrayal during the Great Purge explained much about the fragmentation of Mandalorian culture, the contradictory accounts, the scattered clans. It was a neat, clean explanation for the current state of Mandalorian society. Yet, Rue's final words echo in her mind. A false conclusion if the Imperial Purge was not the whole truth. What deeper secrets lay buried in the records she now carried? Who was Sabine Wren? And what connection did she have to these ancient mysteries? As the stars stretch into lines and the ship leaps into hyperspace, Kes realizes her academic quest has become something far more perilous. She is no longer merely documenting history. She has become part of it, carrying secrets that some would kill to protect or possess. The ship's computer announces their course is set for Salonin. The journey has only just begun, and already nothing is as it first appeared. She gestures to the meditating warriors. These are the preservers, she says, those who maintained the fullness of our traditions beyond mere combat prowess. During the Great Purge, it was the preservers who ensured our cultural survival, hiding forbidden knowledge within scattered coverts across the galaxy. Kes watches the peaceful scene, which contrasts sharply with the violent history she's been studying. I had no idea such practices existed among man. The historical accounts focus almost exclusively on warfare. As intended, Sabine says, with a knowing smile, our enemies see only what we wish them to see. The true heart of Mandalorian culture remains protected behind our armor and reputation. They continue on to a secure vault where Sabine inputs a complex code. The heavy doors swing open, revealing a small room containing a single artifact, an ancient cube of unfamiliar design glowing with soft blue light. This is a Mandalorian holocron, Sabine explains, one of only 3 known to exist. Within it lies the complete philosophical foundation of our culture recorded by Tari Vizsla himself. Kes stares in wonder at the device. I thought holocrons were Jedi technology. Vizsla was both Mandalorian and Jedi, Sabine says. He bridged worlds that have been in conflict for millennia. The knowledge he preserved explains why our people have been both hunted and feared throughout history. Sabine's voice drops lower. It also contains the location of an artifact that could unite or destroy what remains of Mandalorian culture. As Kes absorbs this revelation, distant alarms begin to sound throughout the complex. Sabine Comlink activates automatically. Perimeter breach, a tense voice reports. Multiple hostiles. They're using Mandalorian tactics. Sabine's expression hardens as she seals the vault. It seems your pursuers have followed you to Salonon. The false Mandalorians are persistent. She draws 2 blasters with practiced ease. Now you understand why Aro sent you here. The complete Mandalorian timeline isn't merely historical curiosity, it's a map to power that could reshape the galaxy. The covert transforms with alarming speed from peaceful community to battle-ready fortress. Children and elders disappear into hidden chambers, while warriors don their helmets and ready weapons with practiced efficiency. What strikes Kes most is not the preparations themselves, but the absolute silence with which they are executed. No shouted orders, no confusion, only purposeful movement, guided by generations of discipline. Sabine leads Kes to a command center deep within the complex. Holographic displays show the invaders methodically working through the outer defenses. Their armor mimics traditional Mandalorian design, but with subtle differences that mark them as outsiders. Death Watch remnants, Sabine confirms, studying. The tactical display, mixed with Imperial loyalists and mercenaries, an unholy alliance, united by greed rather than honor. What do they want? Kes asks, though she suspects the answer. The same thing empires have always wanted from Mandalorians: our weapons, our armor, our warriors. Sabine's voice hardens. And now our secrets. She turns to a senior warrior coordinating the defense. Initiate protocol, Beskar. We will hold as long as necessary to complete the evacuation. The commander nods once and relays the order through secure channels. Throughout the complex, Mandalorians begin moving with new urgency, gathering essential supplies and cultural treasures. You said there were 3 holocrons, Kes recalls. Where are the others? One was destroyed during the Night of 1,000 Tears, when the Empire bombarded Mandalore, Sabine says, leading Kes through a hidden passage. The third was entrusted to Bo-Katan Kryze before she disappeared. They enter a small chamber containing a locked case. Sabine keys in a complex sequence, opening it to reveal ancient Mandalorian scrolls and a small data crystal. These contain the complete lineage of the Darksaber, including every bearer and the trials they faced. She carefully transfers the artifacts to a secure container. Combined with Rur's archives and the holocron, they reveal the true origin of the conflict that has divided our people for generations. A nearby explosion rocks the chamber, sending dust cascading from the ancient ceiling. Sabine checks her comlink. Our outer defenses have fallen. We have minutes at most. She hands the container to Kes. You must take these to the armorer. Or never. Oh, she maintains the most orthodox Coventry-serving traditions, even older than those RO protected. Why me? Kes asks, accepting the precious cargo. I'm just a historian. Precisely why it must be you, Sabine replies. The warriors will be hunted. The clans will be tracked. But a scholar with no Mandalorian blood might pass unnoticed. She presses a small device into Kes's hand. This contains coordinates to Navarro and authentication codes for the covert there. Tell the armorer that the time has come to reveal the origin of the purge. Another explosion, closer this time. Sabine leads Kes to a secondary hangar, where a small, nondescript transport waits. Unlike the distinctive Mandalorian vessel that brought her to Linen, this ship could belong to any trader or merchant in the sector. Your vessel has likely been tagged, Sabine explains. This transport will attract less attention. As they prepare the ship for departure, Kes notices Sabine removing something from her armor. She presents a small, intricately carved piece of beskar, bearing the symbol of Clan Ren. Take this, Sabine says. Should you need to prove your connection to our cause. The gravity of the moment is interrupted by the hangar door sliding open. A Mandalorian warrior staggers through, armor scorched from blaster fire. They've breached the main hall, the warrior reports. Evacuation transports are a waiver. They've deployed jammers to prevent further departures. Sabine turns to Kes. You must leave now, while their focus is on the main hangar. What about the holocron? Kes asks. It's already gone transported with the children and elders, Sabine says, checking her weapons. I will ensure you have clearance to depart. The wounded warrior steps forward. I will accompany the historian to Navarro. Sabine nods. This is Tristan, my brother. He will protect you with his life. As Tristan boards the transport, Sabine takes Kes aside for a final word. There is something you should know. The division among our people, the reason for our scattered coverts and conflicting traditions, began with Tari Vizsla himself. She activates a small projector, displaying ancient Mandalorian text. These are his final words. In the holocron, he foresaw that Mandalorian power, unchecked, would lead to our destruction. He deliberately fragmented certain knowledge, believing no single individual should control our full legacy. Kes studies the text recognition dawning, the contradictions in the historical record. They're intentional, yes, Sabine confirms. Our greatest strength has been our ability to adapt to survive in countless forms across the galaxy. Had we remained unified under a single creed, the Empire would have exterminated us completely. The walls around them shake as another explosion rocks the complex. Alarms blare, warning of imminent structural collapse. Go, Sabine commands, drawing her blasters. Complete the chronicle. Unite what can be united, but preserve the diversity that has kept us alive. As the transport lifts off Kes, watches through the viewport as Sabine and a handful of warriors move to confront the invaders. The last image before the hangar disappears from view is of Sabine Wren, standing tall, her distinctive armor a bright declaration against the encroaching shadows. The transport slips away from Selenon through a storm of confusion and combat. As they prepare to jump to hyperspace, Kes examines the records entrusted to her care. The pieces of the Mandalorian puzzle are scattered across the galaxy, just like the people themselves. The truth of their history lies not in a single narrative, but in the complex interweaving of countless stories across time and space. The revelation transforms her, understanding completely. What she had perceived as contradictions were actually adaptations. What seemed like cultural decline was, in fact, a deliberate strategy for survival. The Mandalorian way is not one path but many, all leading toward a shared legacy of honor, strength, and endurance across the stars. The journey to Navarro unfolds in tense silence. Tristan Wren pilots the vessel with the hyper-aware vigilance of a warrior accustomed to pursuit, making numerous course corrections and passing through the gravity wells of several systems to confuse any tracking attempts. Despite his wounds, from Selenon, he refuses to rest, maintaining his vigil at the controls with stoic determination. Kes uses the time to delve deeper into the records salvaged from both Rue's archive and Sabine's collection. The pieces begin to align in her mind, revealing patterns previously obscured by fragmentation and deliberate misdirection. Your sister, said Tari Vizsla, intentionally scattered our knowledge, Kes says, during a rare moment when Tristan seems receptive to conversation. But why would the creator of the dark saber, symbol of Mandalorian, unitarily divide his people? Tristan's helmet turns slightly toward her before returning to the viewport. The dark saber was not created to unite, he says after a long pause. It was forged to remind of what? That power even in the hands of the most honorable carries danger. Tristan adjusts their course slightly, evading a minor patrol near the shipping lanes. Tari Vizsla was both man and Jedi. He understood better than most how strength without wisdom leads to destruction. The ship emerges from hyperspace in an unremarkable system of many temporary stops along their winding route. As Tristan recalculates their next jump, Kes returns to the ancient texts, seeing them with new understanding. The historical records reveal a pattern repeated throughout Mandalorian history: periods of conquest and expansion, followed by civil conflict and fragmentation. Great leaders rising to unite the clans only, for their unified power to eventually collapse under its own weight. Each cycle began with honorable intentions, but inevitably concluded with bloodshed among brothers. It was by design, Kes murmurs to herself. The fragmentation wasn't failure, was survival. It is a single conflict stretching across millennia between those who believe Mandalorian strength comes from adaptability and those who believe it stems from purity of tradition. As the full implications of this revelation settle over Kes, she understands at last the third open loop Rue had mentioned, not merely what fragmented Mandalorian culture, but what could potentially heal it. The answer lay not in choosing between traditions, but in recognizing the strength that comes from their diversity. The hidden truth of the Mandalorian was not a secret weapon or lost technique, but a philosophy that transcended the binary thinking that had divided them for so long. The way was not one path, but many all-valid expressions of the core values that defined what it truly meant to be Mandalorian. For 7 days, Kes works alongside the armorer and Mandalorian elders, integrating the scattered fragments of their history into a cohesive whole. The chamber becomes a nexus of shared knowledge as Mandalorians from various traditions contribute their pieces of the historical puzzle. A warrior from Clan Ilar brings ancient battle poems recounting conflicts long forgotten by the wider galaxy. A weaponsmith offers technical specifications of armor designs evolving across centuries. A former Imperial governor, now returned to his Mandalorian roots, provides insight into the Empire's systematic dismantling of their culture through it all. Kes witnesses something profound. Despite their different interpretations of the Mandalorian creed, these diverse individuals find common ground in their shared heritage. The rigid traditionalists of Navarro listen with respect to the more progressive perspectives from survivors. Those who had lived among outsiders share valuable lessons with those who had remained isolated. This is what Tari Vizsla intended, the armorer observes during a rare moment of reflection. Not division for its own sake, but specialized preservation, each covert, each clan maintaining particular aspects of our culture, ensuring nothing essential was lost. Like a redundant system, Kes suggests, if one part falls, others preserve the whole precisely. The armorer examines a particularly ancient helmet Kes has been studying. The Empire targeted our unity, believing they could eradicate our entire culture by destroying Mandalore itself. They failed to understand that Mandalore is not merely a planet, but an idea carried within each warrior. On the 8th day, a secure transmission arrives from a distant sector. The elders gather to receive it, inviting Kes to witness what proves to be a pivotal moment in her research. The holographic figure that appears stands tall despite advanced age, her armor distinctive and regal. Though Kes has never seen her before, she immediately recognizes Bo-Katan cries from historical records and Sabine's descriptions. The rumors are true then, Bo-Katan says without preamble. The fragments are being reunited. The historian has accomplished much, the armorer confirms, gesturing to Kes. With the addition of your knowledge, the chronicle may finally be complete. Bo-Katan studies Kes through the hologram. An outsider carrying our deepest secrets. Tari Vizsla would appreciate the irony. She turns her attention back to the armorer. I have secured the third holocron, the Imperial remnants, hunting. It hath been dissuaded. Then the time approaches. The armorer says, will you join us? My fighting days are behind me, Bo-Katan replies, a hint of regret coloring her voice. But I will ensure the holocron reaches you. My protege departs for Navarro tomorrow. After the transmission ends, the gathering disperses to make preparations, leaving Kes alone with the armorer and Tristan. Bo-Katan cries once wielded the darksaber. Kes says, piecing together fragments of more recent history. She led Mandalore briefly before the Great Pajand lost the darksaber during the Empire's attack, Tristan adds. Its path since then has been ... complicated. The armorer moves to a secure cabinet and retrieves a small, ornate box. From it, she produces a data crystal of unusual design. This contains the unaltered words of Tari Vizsla's final wisdom. Recorded before his death, she offers the crystal to Kes. Few have heard them in their entirety. They are meant for moments of great transition, when the old gives way to the new. Kes accepts the crystal with reverence, inserting it into a reader modified specifically for its ancient format. A hologram forms above the device, showing a Mandalorian in armor unlike any Kes has seen before, blending Jedi and Mandalorian aesthetics into something unique. To those who follow after, the figure begins, his voice carrying the weight of Centuries I leave not commands, but counsel. The warrior who cannot adapt will eventually fall. The tradition that cannot bend will ultimately break. True strength lies not in rigid adherence to a single path, but in the wisdom to know when to hold firm and when to evolve. The message continues, addressing future generations with insights that seem to anticipate the very conflicts that would divide his people. Tari Visla speaks of balance between aggression and restraint, between individual honor and collective responsibility, between tradition and innovation. As the hologram fades, a profound silence fills the chamber. Kes looks up to find the Mandalorians watching her, their expressions hidden behind impassive helmets, yet their attention palpable. "Now you understand," the armorer says quietly. "Our greatest strength and greatest vulnerability are one and the same. Our diversity preserved us through the Empire's purge, yet it also prevents us from reclaiming our full heritage. Unless the fragments are reunited," Kes concludes, seeing at last the full scope of what she has become part of, not to enforce a single interpretation of the Mandalorian way, but to acknowledge the validity of many paths within a shared tradition. Totristan nods. This is why the Chronicle matters, not merely as history, but as a foundation for our future. A warrior enters the chamber, bearing news that sends a ripple of anticipation through those present. A ship approaches. Mandalorian design, ancient class, it bears the insignia of clan Kryze. The armorer rises. Prepare to receive Bo-Katan's Emissarian III holocron. The final piece approaches. As the covert mobilizes to secure the incoming vessel, Kes gathers her notes, now expanded to include wisdom from dozens of sources across Mandalorian society. The Chronicle nears completion, not as a single authoritative version of history, but as a tapestry of interconnected narratives, each valid within its context, each contributing to the whole. The Mandalorian timeline, once fragmented by design and circumstance, now approaches wholeness, and with it comes not only understanding of the past, but the potential to forge a new future, one that honors the full spectrum of what it means to follow the way. What began as an academic exercise has become something far more profound, a living document that will guide the rebirth of a culture poised between its ancient heritage and its future potential. The Chronicle will be the foundation stone of our new beginning. The armorer tells her as they reviewed the final compilation, not as dogma to be followed blindly, but as wisdom to be considered thoughtfully. The emissary from Clan Krysna, introduced as Karina Kryze, distant kin to Bo-Katan herself, joins them in these final preparations. Bo-Katan asks that you include this, she says, offering a data crystal containing personal records spanning decades, her perspective on the fall of Mandalore and the time since. She wishes history to judge her actions honestly, not through the lens of legend or bitterness. As Kes integrates these final accounts, a pattern emerges, one that transcends the specific events of Mandalorian history to reveal a deeper truth about power itself. The cycle she has documented of unity leading to strength, strength attracting hostility, and fragmentation ensuring survival applies, not just to Mandalorians, but to many cultures throughout galactic history. Your Chronicle has implications beyond our people, Tristan observes, reviewing her conclusions. The Jedi fell when they became too centralized, too rigid in their traditions. The Empire collapsed under the weight of its own inflexibility. Even the Republic, for all its claims of democratic ideals, failed when it could not adapt to changing realities. The Mandalorian way offers an alternative, Kes suggests. Strength through principled diversity rather than enforced uniformity. On the eve of departure, Mandalorians from across Navarro's covert gather for a ceremony not performed in centuries. Armor is cleaned and prepared with reverent care. Ancient songs rise in the chamber where once there had been only the practical sounds of warriors at work. The armorer steps forward, bearing molten beskar in a crucible of traditional design. One by one, representatives from each clan approach, contributing a small piece of their own armor to the glowing metal. From many, one, the armorer intones. From one, many, they respond. This is the way. The combined beskar is forged into a medallion bearing a new symbol, one that incorporates elements from diverse Mandalorian traditions into a harmonious whole. When cooled, the medallion is presented to Kes. You began as an observer, the armorer explains, but have become a participant. The chronicle you have assembled does more than record our past. It creates our future. Kes accepts the medallion with humility, understanding its significance. Though not Mandalorian by birth, she has been entrusted with their most precious heritage, the complete understanding of who they are and how they came to be. There is one final matter to resolve. Karina Cries announces. From a secure container, she produces an object wrapped in ancient cloth. As she unveils it, gasps echo through the chamber, the darksaber. Its black blade ignites with a distinctive sound unlike any conventional lightsaber, its edges crackling with energy contained by will as much as by technology. Bo-Katan entrusted this to me with specific instructions. Karina continues. It is not to be claimed by any single leader, but kept as a symbol of our shared heritage, no longer a weapon of conquest, but a reminder of balance between our warrior past and our more enlightened future. The armorer nods in approval. This wisdom reflects Tari Vizsla's true intention. The darksaber was never meant to create another emperor or dictator. It was a reminder of the responsibility that comes with power. As final preparations conclude, Kes completes the chronicle with an observation that ties together all she has learned about Mandalorian culture. The true definition of what it means to be Mandalorian is not found in rigid adherence to a single creed, but in the commitment to honor, family, and survival that transcends specific practices. The helmet may be worn or removed, traditions may vary between clans, but the core values remain consistent across all authentic expressions of identity. These words, when shared with the gathered warriors, bring nods of agreement from traditionalists and progressives alike. The artificial divisions that have been reinforced by incomplete understanding now begin to heal in the light of their complete history. The fleet that departs. Navarro represents the most diverse gathering of Mandalorian factions since before the Great Purge. Ships of various designs, bearing clan insignias from across the galaxy, rise into the atmosphere in perfect formation, a visual testament to the unity and diversity that has become their new understanding. Kes watches from the lead vessel, the chronicle secure beside her. Through the viewport, stars stretch into starlines as they make the jump to hyperspace, beginning the journey to Concordia Nova, where a new chapter in Mandalorian history awaits. The Mandalorian timeline, once fragmented and contested, now forms a complete circle. What began in the ancient past with Tari Vizsla's wisdom now extends into a future limited only by their ability to maintain the balance he first envisioned, between tradition and adaptation, between individual honor and collective strength, between the warrior's path and the sage's wisdom in the end. The greatest victory of the Mandalorians was not won on any battlefield, but in their capacity to endure, adapt, and emerge stronger from each challenge, carrying forward the essence of their culture while allowing its expression to evolve with changing times. This is the way, not as a single path, but as countless paths, all leading toward the same eternal truths. The journey through hyperspace to Concordia Nova spans 17 days. Following ancient routes unknown to modern star charts, as the fleet travels deeper into uncharted regions, the stars themselves seem to change their patterns, constellations, shifting into formations unseen from the core worlds. In these quiet days between departure and arrival, a profound calm settles over the Mandalorians. Ancient rivalries that once drove clans to bloodshed now fuel nothing more dangerous than spirited debates about history and tradition. Warriors who might once have fought to the death over interpretations of the rustle now share meals and stories, finding common ground in their shared heritage. Kes observes this transformation with quiet wonder, recording these moments as the living continuation of the chronicle she has assembled. The history of the Mandalorians did not end with the discovery of Tari Vizsla's final message. It continues with each conversation, each small act of reconciliation, each step toward a future that honors the past without being imprisoned by it. On the final night before their projected arrival, Kes stands in the observation deck of the lead vessel. Around her, the fleet travels in perfect formation, a constellation of their own making against the cosmic backdrop. Each ship carries a piece of Mandalorian culture. Each represents a tradition preserved through centuries of conflict and dispersal. The armorer joins her at the viewport, her distinctive helmet now carried rather than worn, a personal choice that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. Ancestors speak of a time when Mandalorians were feared throughout the galaxy. The armorer reflects, when our very name caused worlds to tremble and empires to prepare for war. She gazes out at the hyperspace corridor, its swirling patterns hypnotic in their beauty. I wonder if they would recognize what we have become. Not conquerors, but survivors. Not destroyers, but preservers. I think Tari Vizsla would approve, Kes offers. He foresaw this moment, after all the gathering of fragments, not to rebuild an empire, but to create something new, something balanced. As if in response to her words, the ship signals their imminent return to normal space. The fleet emerges from hyperspace in perfect synchronization, revealing a world of breathtaking beauty. Concordia Nova hangs before them, jewel of blue. Oceans and green continents, white clouds swirling across its surface in delicate patterns. Unlike Mandalore, with its war-ravaged surface, this world remains pristine, untouched by the conflicts that have scarred so much of the galaxy. As the ships begin their descent toward coordinates provided by the holocrons, Kes takes a final moment to add to the chronicle, the Mandalorians' journey now toward a future as diverse and adaptable as their past. Their strength lies not in uniformity, but in the harmony of different traditions united by core values that transcend specific practices. Like beskar reforged after battle, they have emerged from the crucible of their history stronger for having been tested, more flexible for having been broken and remade. Below, the surface of Concordia Nova reveals ancient structures waiting to be rediscovered, built by Tari Vizsla's followers centuries ago and preserved for this moment of return. Not ruins to be excavated, but foundations upon which to build anew. The descendants of Mandalore have come home not to a single planet, but to a shared heritage that spans the stars. Their armor glints in the light of a new dawn, fragments of beskar scattered across the galaxy now, gathering like stars, forming a new constellation. The chronicle is complete, Yet the story continues. This is the way, now and always. A path illuminated by the wisdom of the past, but leading ever forward into unexplored horizons. Rest now, as the children of Mandalore begin their newest chapter among the eternal stars.